the secret we never wanted revealed as women is that as women, we have a switch, like a light switch with sex, and it is either off or it is on. And we all know we have this switch and that we have the capacity and the choice to turn it on and off when we want to. And as women, when we were single, we had the switch on for bad boys and we had the switch off for good men until we were ready to settle down and get married and start a family. And so good men can know if you struggled to get women when you were younger and before you were married, or if you're watching and you're single, this will shed some light for you too. If you didn't have a lot of women until you met your wife, it's because she had her switched off. And then when she was ready to settle down, she turned it on and she used the on switch with sex to trap you to get what she wanted, which was to get married. And so when we're ready to get married, our biological clock is ticking. We get a good man and we enjoy sex. We want to have plenty of sex. And then we get what we want. We get married and the sex stops. And the sex becomes unimportant. And like I said, it becomes infrequent. And all of a sudden, the amount of sex you were having before you got married begins to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Because it was a trap. It was a trap to get what we wanted. My mentor shared with me what he calls the penny analogy. That if you put a penny in a jar for every time you had sex before you got married, and then you took a penny after you got married, you took a penny out for every time you have sex once you're married, you would never empty the jar. And that's the sad reality of sex with your wife, is that she used sex to get married. And once she trapped you, there was no reason for sex anymore. The sad fact is that a good man, or after a woman marries a good man, all he's good for is being a sperm donor and for financial security. And all the facade of being into you, of being passionate about you, of loving you, and can't wait to get together to be with you, that facade drops because we got what we wanted. And for most of us as women, when we become disinterested in sex and we stop having sex, we will hold on enough to string you along. So that's where we'll have sex once a month or twice a month, and we'll string you along for that financial security and or for having children. And that was sadly my experience, that when my husband and I met.
The reason women have sex is to get what they want. Sex is literally a tool to get what they want. Even to the guys that they're really attracted to, right? People will say, oh, well, they have genuine burning desire for that guy. That guy, they're just going to have sex with them to get them to like her. Other guys, there's other ulterior motives. But the main point is women have literally locked themselves into a corner by playing all of these coochie games. In the 21st century, there is far too much information out here for women to be playing these kind of games. And the majority of guys have just checked out. Even husbands checked out in marriages.
Sex was great. I had plenty of it. I enjoyed it. He enjoyed it. We had fun together. And then once I knew I had him, the switch turned off. I put walls up. I didn't want to get undressed around him anymore. If he came in and he tried to hug me, I would jerk away. And I had all kinds of stories built up about why I was doing this. I denied to myself the real reasons why, which is what most of us as women do. And there was nothing he was going to be able to do to turn that switch back on. And I didn't withdraw it or withhold it completely, but we would have it maybe every other week. And women listening who are open-minded and want to know these things for yourself, you'll know that we have this mental calendar where it's like, okay, I had it. And then we are like, okay, that'll probably buy me a week or two. And then that time starts running out and we start building this anxiety of when we're going to need to engage with sex again, to give just enough to make it seem okay, and just enough to keep getting what we want. But by that point, our switch is off and the switch never goes back on. And we let our stories and our games begin of why we don't want to have sex anymore. And the sad part,
And you know what I find really egregious? Men have always known, oh, you know what? If you get married within an amount of time, your wife will just cut off the sex spigot. But then all of these married guys will tell you, oh, yeah, go ahead, get married. That's why I'm doing this video. That's why this movement is so important, because it's literally exposing the truth for guys.
it is that a good man falls for all those stories and all those excuses of why we don't want to have sex anymore. And I had a myriad of them. And it's fascinating how those stories begin, where in the beginning, we're having fun, we enjoy it. It's not an issue in the beginning of the relationship. And then all of a sudden, well, it's my past with men before I met you, or it was my relationship with my dad, or I have really low self-esteem and I don't really know what I like. And just all these stories start coming up out of nowhere. And the sad part is, because good men want to believe their wives, they see the good in us, is then they fall for these stories, or the story of, well, I've changed and I need you to meet me in a different place now. I need you to start doing this technique or that technique, or can we read this book together? I've changed and I need it to look sex to look different now. And good men will fall for that. That's where I went. And
Nah, don't fall for any of these games, guys. Women go out of their way to have sex with the guys that they really want to have sex with. No strings attached, no timelines, instant, right away. But the unfortunate reality, and what I've come to recognize, is even with those guys, eventually the sex runs dry, because modern women have been conditioned from the time that they're sexually active to use sex as a tool, as a bargaining chip. And once that's done, you can never undo it. It's like getting addicted to fast money. Once a person experiences fast money, once a woman experiences using sex as a tool, there's no going back. And the unfortunate reality is the majority of modern women only know how to use sex as a tool. And that's why relationships are doomed.
shared a little bit about that in the last couple of videos, where I had my husband reading all these books with me. We went to couples counseling and I made it this giant ordeal in our relationship. And it was really confusing to him. And he would try to do all the things because he's a good man. And that's what you do. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. So he tried to do the different things that I said that I needed. And you'll see women in comments of some of these videos from other men telling men, here's what you need to do to get your wife to re-engage with sex, and turn your game back on, and you gotta, and all these
No, all of this bullshit advice that they're giving out, do the exact opposite of it.
things. And women will comment on the videos like, yes, I wish my husband knew this. But the truth is, and we all know it, ladies, is that if they do those things, it still doesn't make us happy, and we're still pointing the finger, and you're not doing it right, and well, I didn't mean it like that, and well, no, maybe that's not what I want. And it's this total crazy making for good men. And so here's what good men need to know, and then we're going to get into the 5 top reasons why this happens. But the switch is a really important foundation to know that switch has gone off. And so what good men need to know is that if your wife's switch is off, there is nothing you can do to turn that switch back on for your wife. I had to own and teach other women to see this.
I'll actually tell you guys, there's one thing that will turn that switch, is literally getting other women. As soon as you get other women, that light switch will come back on. The reality of the situation is women need constant competitive anxiety to perform sexually. I'm telling you guys, that does not sound very flattering, but that's what it is. If you have multiple women, you have multiple options that you can pursue, somehow the woman who was trying to reserve herself sexually will somehow open up to you. It's very weird. Most people would just like to be, oh, you're my lovely wife, I'm your lovely husband, let's have sex all the time. But unfortunately, that's not how women work. So if you want to have your woman having sexual intimacy for you all the time, well then 2 options. Don't commit to her, or option number 2, be polygamous and have multiple women. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
This is our problem. It's our problem that the switch went off. It's our problem that we've disengaged. Our good man, the man we married, is still the same good man. He didn't change. We got what we wanted. We turned the switch off. So good men, don't be fooled by the bad advice out there that there's something you're doing wrong and that this is your fault and there's something that you need to be doing differently to turn her switch back on. No, because her switch was on when you met and you were still the same good man. So this is, in a good way, this is your wife's problem to solve. And women, we need to know this is our problem to solve. And in everything I teach and everything I'm teaching today, this isn't to make us wrong and bad as women. It's to look in the mirror and to start to take accountability and responsibility and empower ourselves to change. Because ladies, you need to know, as long as you think it's your husband and he's the problem with sex and he needs to do things differently, you're stuck in victim and it's never, ever going to change no matter what he does.
Shout out to the Good Wife School. Go show her some support on her channel. Now let's read through some of these comments. My wife told me if I was nicer, I would get more. 2 weeks later, she said, you're only being nice because you want some. It's been 30 long years. Wow. 30 years dealing with this kind of bullshit. Nah, if she tells you to be nicer, man, cut that bitch off. I'm telling you guys, you just gotta be cold-hearted in this world. And like I said, so many young guys have been exposed to the RP. So many young guys, their minds have been opened. So women have literally put themselves in a no-win position over the long term. Been divorced from my ex-wife for 6 years. I have never been happier. No walking on eggshells or pointless arguments, just peace. Man, that's it. A woman marries a man in hopes he will change, but he doesn't. And a man marries a woman in hopes she doesn't change, but she does. That's a fact. The hardest question many wives cannot answer is, how do I as a husband benefit from being married to you? Yo, that's a fact. I'm telling you guys, in the modern world, there is literally zero benefit to marriage. You only get entrapped. You only end up playing yourself. But let me know your thoughts and your experiences down below in the comments, guys. Has this ever happened to you? Have you experienced anything like this? Because so many guys are in situations like this, but are afraid to speak out and they feel very lonely. So share your experiences with me. It's your boy Scope. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys on the next one.